What's up, everybody? Welcome into today's DLLS Cowboys Podcast at a little different time because we had to hear Jerry and Steven and Schotty introduce our newest head coach. Early impressions? Have you changed your mind at all about the hire? Let's get into all those things now on the DLLS Cowboys Podcast. I guess not now, but meow. Welcome to the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Mr. Brian Schottenheimer. Schotty, Shot, all of those different things. Welcome into Schotty. We appreciate everybody who is here for the show at a different time today. We had to, you don't want to be on at the same time as the presser. We got people who got to be there. We got to listen to it. Everybody's got to know what's going on. So welcome in. Thank you to everybody who's already hit the like button to get us started. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed. I do not appreciate all the people on social media and in the chat already demanding rants. It was just a nice little press conference. Nothing to rant about, surely. But my name is Jeff. Hi. Next to me is the greatest beat writer in the history of the Cowboys, Joe Hoyt.
Tell him something, Joe.
Listen, I'm okay.
Next to him is the greatest beat writer in the history of the Cowboys, Clarence Hill.
If you want to win, put pop up.
And Jerry Jones, I got something to tell you, partner,
Tell him.
Rant number one.
pal, chief. When David Moore's not there at the presser,
Oh, yeah, here's a rant.
you better give Clarence that first question.
Man, that's ridiculous.
Not second. I think it's because he's mad at me. I think I got you. I got you second. That's my fault.
Yeah, he's mad at me from the quote to start the season of
The one you said today?
You have to use all those F-bombs.
Oh,
He's
that
mad
one.
at me for all in. You put that all in around my neck. I'm all in now, Clarence. Are you? Is Schottenheimer all in?
He's all in on Schotty?
Is this all in on winning the Super Bowl, though?
So you asked him.
He's all in on Schotty, And by the way, we have a new trend we can do as Cowboy, media, fans, supporters, whatever, which is to use air quotes on facts.
Yeah.
We can start doing that now. I'm 6'3". We could
I'm 6'3".
No, that's how you're supposed to do it.
I'm 6'3" lying down.
Oh, jeez.
Dude, we are 2 minutes in.
What are you talking about? We talking about air quotes?
Clarence and Joe were at the press conference. I was at Pilates, so we'll start with them. Early impressions. And Clarence, out of respect for your track record, I'll start with you, unlike Jerry.
Oh, they're going to pull the rug.
Listen, and out of respect for Brian, who's a great fellow, great guy. I've known of Brian since he was in high school in Kansas City when I first got into the business at the Kansas City Star when he was playing high school football. Great guy. But the press conference was really about Jerry defending the process, being defensive about everything that's been said about it. He reads everything, guys. He sees everything.
He referenced I read 100 times.
Yeah, he's everything we've said about the process and how it was a jackleg process and everything else. And I don't know if it gives fans confidence that this is what was necessary to get over the hump. I don't know if it gives anyone confidence. I don't know if they won the press conference today, which they were hoping to do. I like Schotty. I just don't know if they did anything to convince fans that things would be different.
No, I thought Schotty did great, but in terms of just, being in front of a press conference, but to your point, this was about Jerry Jones trying to defend a process that was flawed. And I thought one of the most telling things about the whole thing was, when Jerry was talking about, I listen, I read, he's like, hey, the guy next to me, this is the biggest risk I've taken.
Yeah.
And Schotty just had to sit there while he just kept saying over and over again that this is a risk. This is a risk. This is a risk. And I kept thinking, man, the amount of pressure that's got to be on Brian Schottenheimer for this first-time head coaching job is got to be immense. We'll see how he can handle it. I asked Stephen Jones after, hey, when you're talking about calling him a risk, do you think he's self-aware of that? Do you think he can handle it? And he's like, I do think he can handle it. And honestly, this pressure kind of comes with trying to win a Super Bowl here in Dallas and get that 6-1. And, that's my thought process leaving this is, this process has given Brian Schottenheimer a pressure cooker of a job.
It's like if I was getting married and I say, I know my wife is not Halle Berry.
Well, she's sitting right there.
But I believe in her.
But I believe it. I know, but she's fine in my eyes, okay? She's beautiful. I know she's not Halle Berry. I know y'all know she's not Halle Berry. She knows she's not Halle Berry, okay?
I've read that she's not attractive. And that there are other people I should be interested in. But I like her. That's a good presser. Yeah, she has a great personality. I did think it was a pretty standard, pretty run-of-the-mill deal. And the thing that stood out is, like we talked about it before the show, like Aaron Glenn has his introductory press conference, and you can pull out these quotes that you're like, holy cow, and look at the fire, and what a great... And I don't think Schotty was ever going to have a chance to do that because of the job. Aaron Glenn got introduced, and the general manager was there.
Mm-hmm. Well, the general manager was here too.
Yeah, ours was there too. Yeah, the owner, the general manager, was sitting next to Schotty, and like it's going to be a Jerry event. It's not your event.
It is, but when you're given a chance to speak to the fans and speak to the teams, which he was, speak to the fans. Don't talk about your family.
Well, Jerry set that up. He started it.
I know, but you've had days to prepare. What am I going to say? What am I going to say in this press conference that's going to convince people I'm the right guy for the job?
I mean, maybe his family is the reason why he thinks he can pitch that. I mean, that might be his only pitch. He's never been a head coach. He's been an OC for 25 years, or in the NFL for 25 years. He hasn't been a play caller in a while. There's not much to pitch other than the fact that, hey, I am the son of Marty Schottenheimer, and I've been in this league for a long time. I think I can do what he could. That's what his pitch only pitch was. But
Marty's never won anything.
And then that's what his pitch was.
But they're going to win one for him.
Yeah. Pitch while you're different than Mike McCarthy. Because most people are going to see you're Mike McCarthy light. You came from off his staff.
And I think you got a little bit of that. But I also think that he's always going to be careful. Like, you're not going to catch Brian Schottenheimer talking bad about the guy who gave him a job.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who gave him a job was talking bad about him. So I ain't staying here if he's the offensive coordinator. I mean, let's be honest.
He didn't say that out loud. We know it to be true.
I mean, basically, let's go through that because the process started when Jerry talked about the process. They initially started talking to Mike McCarthy after the season about Brian Schottenheimer being the play caller next year. They weren't talking to Schotty initially about being the head coach. We want Brian to be the play caller. If he wasn't the play caller, he wasn't going to be here. He was going to be the play caller. That's what they presented to Mike McCarthy first. Then Mike McCarthy said, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then they pivoted to, well, let's think about making him the head coach.
And for the record, one thing they also talked about was that Schottenheimer wanted to be a play caller anywhere. And that he apparently, according to Stephen Jones, had external interest. I had heard that Seattle was interested in talking with him to be the offensive coordinator. They just hired Clint Kubiak. So maybe that's the possibility. But if Brian Schottenheimer wasn't here, then maybe Mike McCarthy would be here.
Yeah, and again,
I would have gotten it right.
And again, if
they would have full circled that thing,
if you had a choice between Schottenheimer and Clint Kubiak, you're most likely taking Kubiak based on history.
The timing,
they're familiar with him in Seattle though too,
and the timing of it lines up that either they didn't know yet or whatever. If they waited until Schottenheimer was the head coach, and I think to me, whatever you think about Brian Schottenheimer as a head coach, as a play caller, as whatever, like that, we'll find out. That's a Mickey Spagnola. We'll find out.
That is a Mickey Spagnola.
But so to me, there's two things about this that eventually you're going to grade. One is, how was Brian Schottenheimer as a head coach? And we don't know. Yeah. And I hope that he's awesome. I hope that he's great. And the second one is, how did we arrive here? And I can grade that, and it's an F-.
Yeah.
They failed miserably in the process, and what we got at this presser was a lot of Jerry Jones attempting to defend his process while accidentally kind of crapping on his head coach.
Yeah.
And I think it revealed like the human side of me. We're all human people with empathy and emotions and whatnot, and like it's really sweet. It's really cute. When you're talking about families and friends and what all these things mean, and like it's really nice, and I'm sure that touched a lot of people. Ultimately, it means jack crap about who your head coach should be and if you should be winning. It was a lot of Jerry Jones talking about Marty Schottenheimer and the family and calling his mama, and I think that is a huge part of who Jerry Jones is these days, and probably always has been. But loyalty, family, like those sorts of things, he can try to spin it as this is a giant risk. It's not. It's the exact opposite. It is evidence that you aren't willing to go outside your comfort zone. He's like, I'm hiring a guy who's never been a head coach. That's outside. That's risky. That's outside the comfort zone. No, it's not. When you lost the coach you were comfortable with because he wasn't open to the idea of this guy calling plays, you just moved on to another guy that you were comfortable with that would do this at a reasonable salary. He's huge on family and friends and and being comfortable when he's at work. That's what Jerry Jones is into. And he can try to spin it however he wants. He hired a guy that he's comfortable with, and now we will hope that a guy who, yes, comes from a football family, has a lot of experience coaching football, we will hope that he does a great job as a head coach and a play caller. I hope that. I want that to happen. Process F-.
Yeah. And going back to the process, I asked Jerry, because he did, and how long was the press conference? An hour and what?
It was over an hour for the press conference, and then about 25, 30 minutes.
But then he talked for 30 minutes in the walk-off. You know, we sat and talked about the same thing. I asked him, you know, why not Ben Johnson? Why not Aaron Glenn? Why not go and at least talk to some of the other guys? We got McDonald's at home. We got Ben Johnson in Schottenheimer. That was his. I mean, basically, we got all that in Schottenheimer. He is just as good as the Ben Johnsons of the world. That's what he was told. We were told.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because one thing I kept thinking throughout this entire process was Jerry's defending a process and claiming that he did due diligence when clearly there was not enough due diligence done outside of Brian Schottenheimer. He tried to tell you over and over again that when it came to Brian Schottenheimer, I did do enough due diligence. I knew his dad. I knew his mom. I when he came here for the last 3 years, I've been watching him watching him in coaches' meetings, and I'd be like,
you hear what he said in the coaches' meeting?
Yeah, no, and then I called all his neighbors. You know, I called Steve Spurrier, I called Pete Carroll to find out more about him. Yeah, I think you can make an argument that you did a good due diligence on Brian Schottenheimer, but this is a process where you have to do due diligence outside of it. I asked Steven if Deion Sanders was a legit candidate. He said, yeah, Jerry loves him, but as we know, that was a phone call that never turned into an interview. Same thing with Pete Carroll. That was more of a phone call about Schottenheimer where Pete Carroll gave his 2 cents about what he could do, hypothetically, before he took the Vegas job. They had other conversations, too. I don't think you can defend the lack of due diligence when it comes to the people outside of Brian Schottenheimer. It may work out. The due diligence you did on Brian Schottenheimer is sound, I think, but I don't know if it is externally with other candidates.
And one thing that you get when you interview other people, whether you hire them or not, is that you pick their brains about what they think of your organization and what you need to change, okay? So whether you hire, when you canvas 12 to 14 people or however many people you canvas, it's not just about them taking a job. It's also about what they think of the organization and what they can help you build and change within your organization. You're not doing that when you talk to 4 people.
No. Well, and I think that's the reason I'm not ranting.
I'm not ranting. You got 2 minutes left. Let's go. You got 2 minutes.
Like I'm not ever going to teach. I'm not going to teach Clarence anything about the way the Cowboys do business, but I think that you set it up perfectly. Like the reason you would bring in the candidates that the entire league is interested in, that there might be a bidding war for because people think this is the guy that gives me the best chance to win. The reason you bring them in is for their new ideas and for what they think of your organization and what needs to change, et cetera, et cetera. This organization's not open to that. He doesn't need to hear it because he'll dismiss it immediately. And Ben Johnson wouldn't even showed up. We found out before the playoffs even started things that he was looking for in an organization, and Jerry knows those things. There's no point in calling him because he's going to tell you where you suck. He's going to tell you, we can't win. Here's why. But Jerry doesn't believe that. He's created in his mind that he can. So who did he interview? He interviewed people who would tell him what he wanted to hear. He interviewed 2 people that he wasn't going to give the job to, and he's like, oh, yeah, and they think we're right on the cusp. Yes, they wanted the head coaching job of the Cowboys, and they're not getting another head coaching job. They told you what you wanted to hear. So did the guy that one other team might have been interested in and having as a coordinator that you hired as your head coach. And Kellen Moore's been here forever. He's your homie. You don't want to hear real criticism. You don't want to hear what it takes to win because you have convinced yourself because of a Herschel Walker trade that you know how to win in the NFL. And you don't. You do air quotes when facts, that's to Steven, when it's a fact that it has been twice as long for you as anyone else in the entire conference to get to the final 2 of your conference. It's a fact. And you air quote it and dismiss it with, we've won some regular season games. You guys are diseased on the inside. And the fact that the only people you interviewed is the ones who are going to tell you what you want to hear because they desperately want to work with you, and they're the people that you like or satisfied a rule to hiring in the NFL. It's embarrassing. It's gross. It's terrible. I hate it. And I want Schotty to win the Super Bowl. But there's another side of me that wants him to fail miserably because I just want it to be as clear as possible to the Jones family. You're awful at this.
Would it be clear?
Yeah, would it be clear?
No. They would blame something else. Hell, they blame Dak today for some of their contract stuff. They'll always blame somebody else. But anywhere else, the GM would have been fired 8 times.
That's a good question.
Anywhere else, the general manager doesn't have a job. And it's just silly. And Schotty seems very likable. I think a lot of the words that he used, like, not that they're groundbreaking or anything, but it's good things to hear from the guy who's going to be calling plays. Relationship with players, cool, that's great. But just the things that Jerry and Stephen Jones try to defend and the way that they try to defend them shows you their self-awareness is zero. And they're the biggest detriment to winning, and they're not interested in hearing how to fix it. And that sucks. Coming up next, though.
Coming up next.
It's just...
No.
It's just... Oh, I gotta see what the ads.
Breathe.
Coming up next.
Breathe.
There were some reasons for optimism out of that press conference. They just didn't involve Steven and Jerry. Let's talk about some of them. But before we do, let's talk about our friends at Sleeper. Oh, sorry, cruised right in. Before we do, let's talk about my guys at Sleeper. Our promo code is DLLS. What? Our promo code is DLLS Boys for our friends at Sleeper, and that is what gets you hooked up. And you like being hooked up because then, if you're a new user, you download the Sleeper app, use the promo code DLLS Boys, you get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Isn't that a sweet little deal? Over the weekend, I got after it on the Sleeper app. I haven't even checked. I know I went 2 for 2 in the early game. I don't know.
What about the goalies? Any goalies?
I didn't do any goalies. But that's the thing. You just pick. People have projected stats for each game, whether it's rushing yards, passing yards, touchdowns, saves, and you can go across sports. You do whatever you want. You're just picking against these projected stats, and if you think that somebody's going to get more or less than is projected, you combine as many picks as you like, and the more that you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. That's our friends at Sleeper. Use the promo code DLLS Boys. Terms and conditions apply. See their terms of use for details. Operational in over 25 states, including this one, Texas. Check out Sleeper today. Also, shout out our friends at Game Time. If you're out there and you want to go to a game, if you want to go to a show, a concert, a comedy show, whatever, our friends at Game Time got you covered. Make sure you have the Game Time app on your phone. It's great for last-minute tickets. You want to go to a game tonight? Hop on Game Time, and they will get you all squared away. They've got all-in pricing there. You toggle that on so you won't have the surprise fees when you go to check out. You can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time, it is the app you got to have if you're trying to go to games. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download that app, create an account, use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account, redeem the code DLLS, $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. What time is it?
Game time.
Oh. Did you get that right?
What?
That Game Time. Did you get that right?
I mean, maybe.
You just said with no passion.
I broke the rules.
Like, what time is it? You got to hit. What time is it?
I broke the rules for going into the break, and then the clock, and then so I think we're close.
It's a 2:00 show today. It's a 2:00 show.
2:00 show threw us off.
Hour and a half of listening to the Joneses and Schotty.
Alex is in the super chat. So after Schotty is not extended in 2028, who do you think they'll pick next?
Bill Belichick.
I don't know. Whose dad was a good coach for a while that Jerry knew from the competition committee? Nesto's in the super chat. Was it awkward when Jerry brought up Dak being the cause of the contract taking so long?
It wasn't. He laughed it off. Dak did too.
Dak ain't worried about it. He knows the Cowboy game.
He laughed
that check
about
is cashing.
Yeah.
And Corey is in the super chat too. Appreciate you for being here. Yeah, that sort of stuff. Like when you're Dak, you've been around the block, you know. I thought Tank Lawrence did a great job with it when it was his contract time. When he was just like, ain't my job to worry about. Ain't up to me. Like, and the Cowboys can sell you on, and that's part of why they are where they are. A big part is they've butchered contracts. Yeah. They have waited to the end on the no-doubters, and they've made the wrong decisions on who they've signed early. Like, that's a big part of some of their struggles right now. And when they talk about the cap and the contracts that they do have and the dead money and all those things, they have been, and this is not a rant, this is just a recent history of theirs. Normally, they're a good draft and develop team.
Yeah.
Normally. They have struggled in that regard lately, coupled with extending the wrong guys early because they could get the deal they wanted, and waiting on the guys who you know for a fact you're going to want here forever. And all of those things combine to put you where you are. So those are all the front office ways that they have to be better. And hopefully they're open to those ideas.
They acknowledge it for the first. That was the first time I heard Jerry Jones say we got to get better at the cap today.
Yeah, but
Again,
that was
baseline stuff.
But that was after he talked about the 5-year-old Bronco. You know, when
you hate that story.
You can't have a jet without a 5-year-old Bronco. Like, how old is your car, Jeff?
Year and change.
Oh, how old is your car?
A 2017 Hyundai Elantra.
Okay. How many years is that?
That's 8, if you're counting at home.
The average American has a 5-year-old car. It's not evidence of struggling. It's not evidence of, cost cutting.
It's all relative.
It's all
relative.
You know what I'm saying? But, you can't have a jet. That's why you have to have a 5-year-old dirty Bronco. We can watch the Bronco. Dirty has nothing to do with it. No. But it just tone deaf. And so
that's his cutesy stories. It's how he makes himself likable.
He kept bringing up, how many 3 times he brought up buying the Cowboys for $150 million. He did that in the walk-off. I took a risk when I bought the Cowboys. Okay, no one cares anymore. No one cares. No one cares.
There's nothing that happened in the 80s that I care about.
Nothing?
Nothing?
I don't know. I was born in 84.
Well, so you were born in the 80s.
You were born in 84?
The first 5 or 6 years. I don't remember anything from the 80s. I was in college.
I was having a good time.
Jerry has very vivid memories of things that anybody 35 and under, like they've never seen your team win. No. Stop telling me how good you did in a pre-salary cap league before you were a driving force of instituting a salary cap to make sure you got a certain percentage of profits. And then when other people took advantage of how to work that to be more competitive, you don't want to play that game because that costs you more money. Congrats on making the league and yourself a butt ton of money.
Right.
But you play in a different league now and you ain't won in it.
He acknowledged that too, by the way. The fact that we haven't won one since the salary cap became a thing.
Congrats.
I was
which he guaranteed his profits.
Which he helped institute. And so just Steven acknowledged, yes, the Eagles have won, and maybe we should do some things that they're doing, and we'll see. That's the problem. Is as much as you want to, and I know this segment about what do you like about the press conference? What do we feel good about Schotty? We can get into the offense and things that he plans to do different than Mike McCarthy. But if the Cowboys don't handle the business differently and how they pick and add players, does it matter?
Well, yeah, you're taking a risk in your mind, right? But you got to alleviate some of this risk, and you got to surround Schottenheimer with actual talent, and that's one thing that Stephen Jones talked about when we talked about in the walk-off. He pointed to, hey, remember when we had those trades for Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks? Maybe we could do some of that with our comp picks this year, which is what a crazy idea that is, right?
Well, okay, so you're going to give up a worse pick for better players than you gave up at the trade deadline because you needed to be in the news cycle by trading for a wide receiver.
And that's my problem is they're thinking trading a 5th-round pick is doing something.
I know.
Go actually and get a top-tier free agent, not a free agent you can get for a 5th-round pick. That's good too. But go get a real difference maker.
The team who can teach you how to do this is in your division. Now, in theory, there's a year coming, and that year is the year of our Lord 2029, where the Eagles might hurt a little bit from the salary cap. But they actually do a great job of staggering the way that they manipulate it. They're going to have some hit this year, and they have almost $70 million in dead money, whatever. They kept doing business the way they do it, and they just move other stuff around.
Yeah.
They're going to have some next year, some 2 years after that, and a lot in 2029. And if they're competitive at that point, they'll just take everyone on the team and move their money to later and eat that, and they'll keep surviving because the cap keeps going up. But that's who can teach you how to do this. The problem is that the Cowboys believe that no one can teach them how to do it, that they are the best at it. Jerry said it again. I'm the best.
Yeah.
You're not. You're really, really bad at it, and that sucks. But so here's your problem with the Eagles. And I don't like doing this because it's a division rival. My God, what a team.
Fantastic team.
Howie Roseman is a monster. When I tell you they are not very, very good at maybe 2 starting spots out of 22, depending on what you think of their quarterback.
Okay, I was going to say quarterback.
Their 3rd starting receiver isn't good. That's Jahan Dotson. And it doesn't matter because they have a mobile quarterback. They're handing it off to Saquon. They're throwing to a tight end and 2 receivers, really.
Yeah.
But they have put together a roster of 5 stud offensive linemen, a stud running back, 2 stud starting receivers, a stud on every spot at the defensive line, 3 good corners, 2 good safeties, 2 good linebackers. One's hurt now. Like, they have put together, when Jerry says you can't have it all, boy, unless you are badass at your job. The Eagles are loaded. I don't know if they'll beat the Chiefs. They're better than them. They just don't have Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
But they're better than them across the board. The Eagles are a monster team right now, and it's because their front office has killed at drafting.
Mm-hmm.
They are not afraid to move off of players. They pick the best player available more often than not, and they'll move their roster around to make that work. Because your early picks are the most important thing to building your team.
Right.
Because you're locked into a value that is, especially if they're good, that's incredible value. And the Eagles, throughout the course of a draft, which running back did they trade 2 or 3 years ago during a draft?
Because to Carolina, Miles Sanders.
So as they're playing this game,
and they led the league in rushing that year. That's they went to the Super Bowl.
Because as they're playing this game of building a football team, they're using everything. And if you see that a running back is the right value on a board, you pick him. And it's like, well, crap, we already had one. It's like, great, trade him.
Yeah,
we'll get something back. And we got the right player that we wanted. Like, and they usually pick premium positions. Like, they're doing. Philadelphia does an incredible job of building their football team. They're miles ahead of the Cowboys, and the Cowboys have to find a way to get back to that.
They also do the cheap thing, too, where they get like, okay, hey, you're a cheap player, but we're going to make sure we're going to put you in a better position here. They go get Mekhi Becton, who was a failed first-round pick at tackle. Hey, let's move you at guard. Now you're a monster. Right. They go say, hey, Zach Bond, we're going to make you a Defensive Player of the Year finalist.
Special teamer Zach Bond is now an All-Pro.
Yes. I mean, so that's the things they do, too, and I think the big thing, and you touched on it, is they let the draft come to them.
Yeah.
And like everyone always says, oh, Howie Roseman's overrated because we give him so many flowers for picking the guy you should have picked.
Yeah.
Not everyone picks the guy you should have picked. Yeah, and he does.
Pick 2 Georgia defense tackles back to back. I mean,
and just let Nolan Smith fall in their lap at 30 in a draft because they just watch it happen. Yeah. And when the league makes mistakes chasing need, they accept the gifts that are given to them.
Yeah.
And the year that they traded the running back to Carolina, Sanders, who was a Pro Bowl, had his best year, and capitalized on that with a big contract in Carolina. They went and got DeAndre Swift, and they thought, okay, he's fast. You know, he can do some things. Well, that was a failure.
Yep.
Okay, fine. We're going to go get Barkley. Let's go get Barkley this year.
Yeah, you move on. And
but they went and didn't say, well, we failed with that running back. We're going to stay away from running backs in free agency. No, go get the best one.
Yeah, and I think that there's lessons to learn there. And the Cowboys, I guess one of the most frustrating parts is the Cowboys know these things because they reference it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, as somebody who, I don't know how to say it without sounding kind of arrogant or cocky, but as somebody who watches and studies the college players and tries to rank them for the draft and all that, when CeeDee Lamb was available for the Cowboys, that was nuts. That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
The league screwed up chasing need ahead of them.
And they talked about
the Cowboys
today.
accepted the gift that they were given. The Eagles do it over and over. The years that the Cowboys don't accept the gift they're given, they take Mozzie, they take Guyton,
Taco Charlton,
they take Taco, because they're going in knowing we desperately need something. Let's pick the guy that plays the position. When you're doing that, you might be going, I have no idea where they actually have these guys ranked. An oppressor, after they pick somebody, they're always going to tell you, well, he was right there at the top. But personally, if you're comparing Mozzie Smith and Nolan Smith are the same year, 4 picks apart. The Eagles got Nolan Smith, who I think was a top 10 player in that draft, top 12 player in that draft, had a little bit of a shoulder thing, and he's kind of an undersized edge, whatever. But premium position, monster player, to me was a top 10 player. Mozzie might have been a top 50 player.
Yeah.
But boy, we need a run, stop, and nose tackle. That's how you F up a draft, is by saying we desperately need this, so pick the position instead of the player. The Eagles don't do that.
Yeah, and let's bring us back to Brian Schottenheimer. If they want to be successful with this, if Brian Schottenheimer is going to have success, you got to be able to manipulate the cap. You got to be able to draft well. You got to do things that they haven't done the last few years.
And a guy in the chat said, sounds like an Eagles process.
They're in the Super Bowl.
Sound like an Eagles podcast. And it sounds like that, but that's who you measure yourself against. Jerry talked about seeing Washington playing the Eagles for that game, and he dreams of being in that game and having those moments. That's what it's about, and they are the standard. Your Cowboys are no longer the standard.
No, and if you dream of being in that game, what you would do is you would make good on what you told your fan base, that you would write any check. Because if you would write any check, you would hire the best general manager on the planet. You would money whip him with whatever check it took, and you'd get the hell out of his way.
Yeah.
So you won't write whatever check. You just want to win.
Yeah, and this has been a bad week for the Cowboys. I mean, you get rid of Mike McCarthy. You hire a coach no one wants. Your two biggest rivals are in the championship game. To me, the Eagles getting to the Super Bowl is a referendum on how the Cowboys do business.
I would make the argument, too, that, I mean, I think the Eagles going is a little bit better for the Cowboys than Washington, because if Washington had won a year after they got rid of their GM, who had a lot of hands on this,
and their owner,
and their that's what I meant. Sorry, I get them confused. See, I cover the Cowboys. You see,
so I take it a different way, because the Eagles went after the Cowboys refused to go all in, and the Eagles did go all in. They do everything to go all in. And how they do business. I hear you on because Dan Quinn and because of,
I meant the owner.
And changing the owner. But it's the Eagles who are in stark contrast to how the Cowboys do business. That's why it's worse to me, because you keep talking about the cap and the pie and paying guys. Eagles paid everybody.
I know, but if you were to remove Jerry, that's the argument if Washington went and did it. It's like you remove the owner, then you did it. Yeah. Sorry, we got to get to the next.
Coming up next, let's actually do what we said we were going to do, because I did like some of the things that Brian Schottenheimer had to say. I am pulling for him to be successful. So if you have some reasons for optimism, hit him in the chat. I've got some things I did like from him. But before we do that, that's all next. So there. It's just me forgetting how our breaks work. Different start time throws you.
Oh.
Empire Today is our friends. And with Empire Today, that's where you need to go for your flooring. EmpireToday.com/DLLS. That'll get you $350 off your new flooring. Empire. I saw them doing a bunch of TV stuff during the games. I was like, okay, Empire. All right.
Okay, Empire. I see you.
Empire Today business is the best floor out there. You get shop at home convenience. You get the right product for your needs. You'll get quick and professional installation and a low price guarantee. The best place to get new flooring. And, that means they got copycats, but they can't be beat on quality, service, speed. So what people do is they advertise low-quality products that Empire's not going to carry. They're not going to promise the lowest prices, because if you do that, they're putting floors in your home that, you don't want in there. But Empire Today, that's our homies. They're virtual floor designer. Great way to see how new floors would look in any space. You just snap a picture, instantly see how those would look in your room. Schedule free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. EmpireToday.com/DLLS for details. Also, shout out to our friends at the East West Shrine Bowl, and that game is going to be on Thursday at AT&T Stadium. It'll be the 100th Shrine Bowl. Joe was out there talking to some of the players, getting a scoop, watching practices, putting in mad work. And the Shrine Bowl's great. There's a bunch of dudes that are going to be playing in that game that are going to be NFL players, that are going to be drafted, and that could be future members of your Dallas Cowboys. So check out the East West Shrine Bowl. It's going to be at AT&T Stadium on the 30th of this month. That's Thursday. And if you use the code DLLS when you buy tickets, 2 or more of them, you'll get 50% off. Shrinebowl.com is where you go to do that. Our friends at Shrinebowl.com, use the code DLLS when you buy 2 or more tickets. You get 50% off. Go buy them tickets today. Today.
Empire Today.
Empire. I did hit the like button on the Eagles podcast, so thank you. I do think, I think the teams who do it better than you, especially in your division, are probably going to get talked about on a show about your team, because they're still playing. There's lessons you can learn from them, and you want to beat them. And part of me wants to just do it so that Jerry hears that on the things that are about him, we're going to talk about how he fails, and then maybe he'll fix it one day. That would be great. I did like some of the stuff from Brian Schottenheimer. There wasn't any super fire that one out there.
Yeah.
But when they actually talked a little bit of football, I did like some of the things that he had to say. He got this gig because Mike McCarthy didn't want to take a step back and let him call plays. And then the Joneses, when talking to Schotty, love him. And apparently Dak loves him, and he loves Dak and really means it. But I like his words about offense, which are just words. Yeah. We have no idea. He's been running offenses for a long, long time, and I don't think anybody's really ever looked at him and been like, there is the cutting edge of offensive football. What do you got?
Here are his words. I don't know if you got them point blank.
Well, I know some of the ones that I like, but go ahead.
Yeah, here are his words. he talked about modernizing the Cowboys offense. I look at some of the things we did in Seattle.
That's not
when he let Russ cook.
Yeah, that's not modern.
Okay.
He didn't do anything modern in Seattle.
But we did all the things start with what our players do well. I'm believing cut splits, shifts, motions to distort things, marrying our runs and passes and make those things look the same. That's also a tempo element we're excited to mix in.
Yeah, and I love the tempo stuff because it feels like, surely you could go look this up, and it would be true. Because if it feels like it, it must be. When the Cowboys go tempo, on average, they do a lot better.
Yeah.
When they just get to...
That's when Dak said his best.
Gripping and ripping and moving.
When they use motion, they are better. They
get to hurry up at the end of a half after milking the play clock every play and not doing motion and being stationary, and they get out there and just start gripping and ripping, and suddenly they start moving the ball. So I like that. I'm a fan of tempo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of when he talks about cut splits, because what he's talking about is you bring everything closer to the middle of the field, and you're able to manipulate defenses and try to get tells out of them and try to find if you can get a matchup that you like. Motion is obviously great as long as you're not doing it just to do it. A guy jogging across the formation means nothing unless they're going to show you if it's man or zone, which would be nice of them. But no, I think he's using all of the right words. I think there are things about McCarthy's offense that people were frustrated with. And if you can come in with a plan that schematically moves you forward a little bit, in terms of giving you an advantage and making some plays easier for guys to make and helping guys who right now it's CD and a bunch of maybes. If you could help those guys get open because of you, that's great. I love those things.
I think he said the magic words too. He said I studied the Shanahan-McVay stuff, which we didn't see a lot. We don't see that in Dallas. And I think the big problem or question with Brian Schottenheimer moving forward is, can we see some of these changes? Can you see a little bit of the zone running scheme that made McVay and Shanahan do so well? Can you get personnel to match that? Can you go out and get an Ashton Jeanty at 12 overall, or get like a Travion Henderson in the second round?
You know damn well they're taking Ashton Jeanty.
I know they're going to take Ashton Jeanty.
Jeanty.
But I think we need to see change. And I think right now it's the whole thing with Brian Schottenheimer is, okay, we can hold off judgment on how you're going to be as a coach, but we're going to have to see something. And you're going to have to see change, and he at least gave some insight to the potential of that, but until it actually happens, it's just words.
And there won't be a honeymoon. This is not we're going to take two. You need to win now.
100%. Pressure.
Yeah.
This is, you got
risk.
Dak, you got CD. This is not no process. You need to win now. There won't be a honeymoon here.
And I think most of that is going to fall on, look, Brian Schottenheimer could be a bad coach, bad play call. He could be all of those things. But I think that his job will be made impossible if the people who spent more time talking today don't do their job.
100%.
Like, if you run out the same product, I promise you're not winning anything.
No.
I promise. But if you make an actual effort to put the players in place that give him a chance, then you could see what he's got. And so I hope that's the thing I hope the most. Schottenheimer's actually the second thing. The first thing is, are you guys going to do the off season? Or are you going to go just have snacks on the boat? Like, what are you guys up to this off season?
And we're going to find out that first. I mean, to your point about, hey, maybe you hold off a little bit of judgment on Schottenheimer, because if they don't participate in the off season, then I feel like Schottenheimer might be getting exactly what Mike McCarthy got last season, and basically a foretold story.
It's funny because
it better be funny.
It better be funny.
I asked Jerry, if we get out through all of these questions, so Jerry, where are your needs? What are your needs? What do you need to do to add to this
Steven,
team?
the same thing. I'm curious to see what he said.
Jerry refused to answer.
Same with Steven.
It's a competitive process.
Same with Steven.
Your needs are not competitive? I don't tell you where. And then he said, you can read the paper. They're all out. There's all out there in them. But what do you need?
Said you're going to find out. That's what he said about needs. You'll find out because we're going to do something about it.
I mean, if that means that they're about to sign a bunch of people in free agency, that's great. But I mean, maybe they didn't answer.
It was funny. It was funny.
Of course, it was funny.
Maybe they didn't answer it because it's kind of embarrassing. Because you want to play a game real quick?
We got needs all over we all got needs all over the map.
Do the Cowboys need a running back?
Yes.
Do the Cowboys need help on offensive line?
Yes.
Do the Cowboys need a receiver to put with CD?
Yes.
Do the Cowboys need a defensive tackle help?
Yes.
Do the Cowboys need linebacker help?
Yes.
Do the Cowboys need a starting corner?
Yes.
The Cowboys have plenty of needs.
Yeah. And I asked him about, speaking of Diggs, he said he doesn't know when Diggs is going to be back.
Diggs is not going to be ready to start the season.
No, I know.
Like we'll end up with, when you're thinking about building your team, and when they finally sent out the words about what Diggs had done, nailed it.
Yeah, you did.
Microfracture, yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, whatever they call the newer version of it.
Yeah.
They're trying to grow back cartilage. That's tough.
No,
it's
you're
going
right.
to be tough. Like Trayvon Diggs might never be the same.
Yeah.
DeMarvion
called that.
Overshown might not ever be the same.
And this will be his last year.
And so, yeah. So they have a lot to do, and they're going to, like, you can't downplay. Trayvon Diggs' spot is a need.
Yes.
If he gets back in the middle of the year and is a good player, that's great. You can't plan on it. If Overshown plays next year at all, great. You better not plan on it.
Your nickel corner
Jordan Lewis is a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Like, they need 2 starting corners, at least 1 starting linebacker, at least 1 starting defensive tackle.
More.
And that's why I actually think offensive line might end up getting pushed and receiver. I think you desperately need to upgrade next to CD. And you'd really like to upgrade your offensive line.
Right.
You can't take the field at linebacker or corner or D tackle.
No.
You can't take the field. I mean, technically, I guess you could run out Carson and Troy Pride with Blunt. No, that's what I'm saying.
Josh Butler back. I mean,
that's what I'm saying is their needs at so many spots where they desperately need a starter, is going to end up trumping. We would really love to upgrade somewhere.
Well, that's a great point because they have no other option but to participate in free agency this year.
Well, I thought that last year.
I know, but even more than
more. You have to because you have so many free. You got so many free.
Many more free.
You just have to participate just to fill out the roster. Interesting, you brought up Carson. Carson was one of the players at the press conference, along with Dak and Tyler Smith and
Jalen Brooks,
Jalen Brooks. There was no Micah there.
Well, you guys just named some guys on offense that would really like to play and get snaps. So I'd probably go too if I was the 5th or 6th.
There was no Micah there. There was no CD there. Interesting. And just getting back to obviously his relationship with Dak is strong. Okay, yes. And he talked about Dak being a guy that you want to build around. Having the right culture. But Jerry Jones made it clear that he did not consult with Dak on the hire. I think they understood Dak's feelings. And just like Steven talked about, I don't
want to call him a liar, but
I'm just saying what he said. Okay,
yeah. He may be playing a game of I didn't hit call to Dak to talk about it. There's no chance they hired Schotty as the head coach without talking to Dak.
Yeah, but they acknowledge that you want someone who is going to do right by your quarterback, your investment you have in Dak, and they felt that Schotty could do that.
And look, Dak's the most important thing. He's the most important thing because he can't go anywhere. He's not going anywhere. And he's the most important person on that field to winning football games. So, I guess my issue would be you think Schotty is the best for Dak because you know them both and you're comfortable with them both. You have no idea. You could have brought in the hot OCs who could have been like, what would help your quarterback? And blown your mind. But you weren't open to it because you don't know them, you're not comfortable, and they wanted more money.
And that's the due diligence part about doing it outside of Schottenheimer, which kind of frustrates me personally. The other thing, too, we had mentioned earlier that Jerry Jones said, this is going to be a risk, probably the biggest risk I've taken at coach. Is it a risk when you're just repeating the same thing you did 2 coaches ago?
No. When
you're just taking the OC that you like and that is very charismatic and that you know really well and saying, hey, now you're the head coach. Well, is that a risk?
I guess the difference here, and I'm with you. Found the difference here is that they knew Jason from the 90s. Okay, they
knew Schotty from before then because he's part of Marty.
Yeah, but they didn't know Schotty.
They knew Marty.
They learned Schotty as a coach the last 2 years. But being around him, it was still 3 years, 2 years as a coach. He was a consultant the first year on defense. Yeah. I doubt if they had much conversation with him as a consultant. But when he started being a part of the coaching staff and making some decisions or being a part of that, that's when they started tuning in. But yeah, it's a comfort hire. There's no question about that.
Yeah,
but that's not risky.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, I guess it depends.
It depends how you look at the risk.
What do you call risk?
Yeah.
Oh, it's risky because the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl. There's nothing about this guy that says he can win you a Super Bowl.
It's risky for me to go to Taco Bell again, but I do it all the time. So I mean,
but I think that's just Jerry again.
You like bubble guts.
Jerry's very sensitive.
Maybe Jerry likes bubble guts too.
He might, but I think. I think the older he gets, the more sensitive he's becoming, and he takes all of these different criticisms and he's trying to systematically take them down one at a time. And so one of them is you don't take risks, and this isn't what anyone means.
Yeah,
hiring a head coach who hasn't been a head coach isn't what anyone means.
Right. It's not
the
an
risk
out of the box
is
hire.
Go sign good players.
Yeah.
the risk is go trade for good players. The risk is not find a guy that you really like and you love his family and underpay him to be a head coach because no one else would let him have that job. Like, that's not what anyone's talking about when they say you're risk averse.
Right.
Yeah.
They're saying you don't build a team the way you used to. You ain't chasing down Deion and Charles Haley to put on your team. You're not, you are living in your comfort zone, and that's 100% true. He tried to tear it down with something that doesn't even apply to what people are talking about, which is a Jerry special.
And they do a good job of selling it because they had his mom, Marty's wife, there, and she was talking to the media. They're going to sell the feel good story.
They're good at that, and I would tell you if you go to a Super Bowl, do you know how many feel good stories Tom Rinaldi's going to find in your locker room or whatever?
Yeah,
like there's going to be specials done about things on your team. You don't have to have them to present your coaching hire. I promise. Whoever else you would have hired also will have or had a mom and or a dad, and it would be very sweet, and they'd be very proud of their kid.
Yeah, a quick behind-the-scenes reporting thing here. We didn't write a lot of good feature stories this year. You know why? Because the vibes were down. No one wanted to talk, and no one wanted to give their stories. And frankly, it would be a little toned to have to write feel-good stories about a team that there was not a lot to feel good about.
Yeah, we don't do positive tape. That was over the morning news.
I promise you, Joe gonna write the hell out of some stuff, and it exists. The fact that it's what you kind of are presenting as your hire is weird, but it is feel good. Yeah. I mean, I bet it was great when he called his mom and we're going to win a Super Bowl for Dad. Like, that's very sweet. It's very touching. It doesn't matter in this context. Final thing that we need to get to in our broadcast day is one of the things that Stephen Jones said. Do you buy it?
Yeah.
Are we about to have some fun? That is next on the DLLS Cowboys Podcast. Also, thank you to everybody who watches the show. We appreciate you. If you're subscribed.
Over 1,000.
What's that?
Over 1,000.
What? Over 1,000?
Thanks, guys.
For a reaction to a generic press conference?
No,
I love you guys. You guys are psychos, and that's a good thing. We want to encourage you to sign up to be a diehard. AllDLLS.com is the website. And what you get when you do that is this is your one-stop shop. DLLS Sports on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast is your one-stop shop for all of your DFW sports needs. We have shows every day for every team. Mm-hmm. We have beat writers, behind the scenes, premium content for every team. We got all those things. And we got sweet merch. Mm-hmm. We got cool stuff that you get access to if you sign up at alldlls.com. What you get is you get a free t-shirt from the merch shop.
Carrying card.
You get a carrying card.
We ain't got it yet, but we're going to get it.
I haven't gotten one yet, but I'm going to get one. You get 20% off of the merch there, 20% off the events we do, like the Mavericks Watch Party that's going to be on February 6th at Cosm. You can go to alldlls.com/events and try to get in on that bad boy if we have any seats left. And I think we got a couple. You also get access to our Discord lounge, which is where all of our diehards hang out together and talk about all sorts of stuff. It's really fun during games, or if you just want to do stuff that's off sports and talk about wild stuff. A lot of people like to post pictures of their food. Feet. There's not an official feet section yet. I've been campaigning.
We got to get that happening.
Hadn't happened yet.
You and Jesse.
But I'm working on it. See if we can get Rex Ryan in here as the DC. Get feet trending again in DFW.
Feets.
Me and Rex.
Make feet great again?
Me and Rex will do a feet podcast. It'll be great. But anyway, those are the things. AllDLLS.com. I did appreciate that Stephen Jones at least acknowledged words that everybody knows to be true, and it's just weird because all it does is shine the spotlight back to the bizarro world of last offseason where they didn't do any of it.
We're all in, Clarence.
All in.
was that your Jerry voice?
Clarence, it's for you. We're all in.
Do you believe that this offseason is going to be different? Because Stephen did acknowledge it wide open when it comes to drafting football players, that the way to do that is you need to sign free agents, fill your holes, and that way you can draft the best players. He said it out loud. He mentioned the exact process, which every team usually follows, or at least tries to.
But they don't.
And last year, they absolutely did not.
Yeah.
Last year, you desperately needed to have somebody that could start at left tackle if you didn't draft a guy early. You desperately needed more at defensive tackle.
That's the big one.
More at wide receiver. There's so many things that everyone knew that you desperately needed, and you did nothing and went into the draft butt naked. You don't want to draft naked.
No.
Bucket naked.
You want to draft fully clothed.
Bucket
That's
naked.
what you want to do.
But you know what's cool too about this draft, just on that point, is the fact that what is this draft loaded with, Jeff? Running backs,
Some D tackles
and
some running
defensive
backs,
tackles.
some good corners.
So like you could find free agents fillers there and then go into the draft armed and ready to take advantage of that. They could. They could.
I desperately hope they do.
They could.
Because otherwise what they're going to do is they're going to say we don't have a running back and Genty's a good prospect. We're taking him at 12.
Yeah.
Which is forcing a pick. And then you'll get to 44 and they'll go, we desperately need a defensive tackle. Whoever's the best D tackle left, we'll take him. Then they'll get to the third round and they'll go, whoo, boy, we ain't got nobody at corner. Who's the best corner left? And you might have gone 5 spots down your board, 15 spots down your board, and that's an easy way to miss because you knew that wasn't the best player. It's an easy way to miss. So
Would Matt Eberflus most likely the
inevitably
defense coordinator? They need defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Run this 4-3 defense.
And that's we don't need to do that, do we? We don't need to do that.
Yeah, do it.
It's the other Cowboys thing. I don't know the history. Has Schottenheimer worked with Eberflus a bunch?
No.
Okay, so Jerry Jones is hiring the defensive coordinator for his new head coach. Like you're just getting off on the dumbest foot that does not empower anybody and makes everybody in the organization like, wait, who's in charge? And it's just goofy. And I like Eberflus. I think he's a good defensive coordinator.
Those 18 hours or whatever they talking there, hey, Eberflus is going to be your defense coordinator.
Yeah.
Did he call his mom?
Did Eberflus call his mom? Is what you're saying? Maybe.
I hope so. I like Eberflus. I think he's a good defensive coordinator. It's just that is Cowboy business. It's like we're not. Shout out to
there's one Philly fan in here, and it's kind of laughing every time I see his name pop up.
Is he having a good time?
He's like, "Y'all gonna watch us win on the 9th."
Kansas City's gonna win, buddy. 3-peat.
I mean, your team is better. The fact that you don't win every Super Bowl is kind of embarrassing. You need a quarterback. That's tough. Aaron's. Well, let me catch up on these super chats. We got some super chats.
That's pretty privileged. Pretty privileged.
Can you ask Jesse why he always capitalizing the first letter when tweeting?
It's a great question.
I've tried. You can't change him, and I have no idea how you can type that way functionally.
Like, you know what's crazy? Sorry, you know what's crazy about this? Is sometimes it better be crazy because he will tweet from the DLLS Cowboys account for us sometimes, clips, and it's not that.
Huh.
So he can change.
I don't know why he does it.
He could recognize that the cap is something they need to improve.
Yeah. Yeah. No cap.
Okay.
Oh. Transition.
Claymore's in the super chat. Jerry mentioned a Ford Bronco. I missed the rest of the story. Was he riding with OJ and Al Cowlings or
no? Damn. No, Claymore. No, he wasn't.
Alf's in the super chat. Let's give Schotty some grace. Our ire should be aimed at the Joneses. Coach deserves a fair shot from all of us fans.
Uncle Chill.
No, I agree with that.
Chill.
Schotty gets a fair shake from me. I think she gets a fair shake from all of us. I'm pulling for Schotty. I hope that he does well. I hope that they hired a good coach. I live here. We talk about this team for a living. I want this team to win all of the games. When I get angry, I promise it's not at Brian Schottenheimer for taking a job he was offered.
Yeah.
I hope he does great. He seems very likable. I hope he crushes it. Jerry's the failure.
Jason Barnes.
Yeah. Jason's in the super chat. What's crazy? It better be crazy.
Better be crazy, Jason.
Is we now have the third best QB in the division and third best coaching staff and bad ownership in the division.
Well,
Dak's a better quarterback than
Jalen Hurts. He is better than Jalen Hurts.
I think so too.
C. Black, softball questions at press conference. He called you a P word, Clarence, right to your face. Get you some of that.
For what it's worth, they couldn't even get to my question because Jerry talked for.
Yeah. Jerry avoided Clarence's question from below the heavens, and he even asked it twice. He's like, right, but what about that is, and it's just like,
and you have to speak up.
And that's the thing that you guys need to know, you people, all you people, that you need to know.
What do you mean?
It's like, you don't ask whatever questions. Jerry says what he wants to say no matter what the question is.
Yes.
When
and you don't get to follow up
every week, you could ask him literally, tell me about the second down play. And he is going, like, he's coming in with the things he wants to say. Your question does not matter. He will then go to whatever he planned to say. You're like, right, but the second down. And he'll be like, boy, and I'll tell you another thing about Schotty. And you're like, okay, all right.
And just window into this the process, he was asked about the Michael Irvin, rant.
Yeah.
So was Steven.
And he said, yeah, I heard it. I've been criticized all my life, but Michael got some things to criticize too.
Oh,
Michael got some things that he don't like people talking about either.
Oh, wow! I didn't hear it.
Yes, Michael got some things. He's been under criticism barrel too.
Wow. Okay.
What a weird.
He really doesn't like. He doesn't like playmakers' food.
I mean, I think that's that's a very silver spoony thing, right?
Yeah.
You just deflect.
So he's going to deflect. So people think that we're supposed to argue with him. Jerry said this, and you asked him, we're supposed. That's not the process.
Yeah. We also ask him everything under the sun. Like, we talk to him after every single post game.
Yes.
At home.
And just like what you didn't hear in the press conference, we asked him, we asked him about you ever going to give up? Are you going to retire? No, I'm not retiring. I'm not giving up. You can't. Well, you should, Jerry. The fans want you to.
I think it's just some very passionate fans who want you to represent
them,
their anger.
Right.
Yeah. Not ask a question to get an answer.
Right.
They want you to yell at Jerry.
Yeah.
And it's like, to what end? Who is actually served? Like if Clarence, after each loss, if your question is, Jerry, you suck.
You'd be like, you suck.
What did we accomplish?
Right. And Tim tried to ask that question, basically said that you're the common denominator.
Right. Yeah.
In
no other GMs get to hire 8 coaches.
Right.
9 coaches.
Yeah. What have you learned about it? What are you going to change about that? He's not going to change.
No. And I think the goal when you have access to people that people want to hear from is to get the best answers you can. And the way to get the best answers you can is try to ask a question in a way that makes them want to say words that aren't go F yourself. What are you doing?
Also, here's a good example from today. So Steven and Jerry were split after. So they did split walk-offs. I went to Steven. You went to Jerry. I asked Steven, was Deion Sanders a serious candidate? And he says, yes, he was. Jerry and I both think the world of him. We think he was a serious candidate. Someone else asked Jerry Jones the same exact question. And without explicitly saying so, he basically said no.
No.
So
that's Cowboys.
So guess what? Even when we're asking direct questions, sometimes,
and Jerry also basically said that Witten was not going to be part of the staff.
Yeah,
which I think is the fans, the backlash getting to Jerry.
Oh, so we can do it?
Well, then we got to keep
going. Let's go.
We got to keep going.
Keep raining.
I think that's part of that, or maybe it's got to Witten. Like I don't want none of that.
I think there's a chance of that.
Okay, well then let me rewind.
Skirt.
Witten's fine. Put him on the staff. It's fine. I don't have no angst to Witten. You're the problem. Address yourself. We don't. And Witt, we love you. We love you. Come coach the tight ends or whatever. You're great. Work your way up and we'll see what happens. The things that we're going to yell about the most, and that's funny because other people are like receptive to criticism and like, oh, that seems like a bad situation to step into because of what everybody thinks about it. Unless you get high enough up where you're just like, I literally don't care. What are you going to do?
It's FU money.
Yeah. Like, what are you going to do?
We got 4 more super chats we didn't get to.
Let's rock.
Michael, the delusional Cowboys fan. Let's see here. Is it fans? Jerry Jones equals Al Davis. Facts.
Okay, go ahead.
That's true. Aaron, my only interest at this point is just to see how much lower it can go. All in
the trash can.
All in the trash can with this front office. Great job with the podcast.
Aaron, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
CT, what do we have to look forward to next season when they refuse to go and get any notable free agents? Why are they so stubborn on that's not necessary? Don't know.
Great question.
You could float.
They got to balance the budget because they want to be the richest franchise in sports.
They're cheap. B Bird, Jerry spoke about time and starting over every year. Other GMs understand that their time is limited and make moves accordingly, which is interesting. Wouldn't you think Jerry would be in a hurry?
You think?
With all due respect, wouldn't you think Jerry would be in a hurry?
He's not retired. He don't have the same sense of urgency. You're talking about a lifetime. Those other GMs understand that I can be fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I don't get this thing turned around. Jerry knows he can't be fired. He can change coaches, but he can't be fired.
And it sucks. But the other thing is Jerry's not losing. To the diehard fan that all you care about is winning a Super Bowl, sure, he's coming up short. By the measurements of the guy who owns the team, he's getting an A+ every year.
Yeah.
What is your motivation to change something? If you're comfortable, you like the people you work with, your family is a part of it, and you win what matters the most every year. Highest TV ratings, Forbes list, there have not been negative consequences to the ineptitude of doing the general manager job. There just haven't been. So he's not losing. We can say he is. He's winning.
Yeah.
We're losing.
Yeah, no, Cowboys fans put a lot of stock into winning a potential Super Bowl, and if they don't get it, they've lost.
After that press conference, I went out and bought $450 in Cowboys merch. Woo, woo. All right. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow at the regular time, 11 a.m. with your DLLS Cowboys podcast. So thank you for hanging out. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through, so be cool to everyone. We love you. Be easy. Or else.
We all silly like the mayor.